So here we have Volkswagen's all-new Amarok, except it's not quite Volkswagen's because this vehicle has been shared pretty much from the ground up with the Ford Ranger. And a couple of years ago, Volkswagen and Ford went into partnership for quite a few vehicles coming down the tracks. For example, the new Ford Explorer will be using the Volkswagen MEB platform, which shares with the ID3, 4, 5, 7 and everything else. It has just gone on sale from about €48,000 on the road to over €70,000 if you want this version of it. The catch about this version, which is the all-spec, all-extras version, it's actually under the payload of 1,000 kilos on the back, which means it's not a commercial vehicle. So it's very important to bear that in mind if you want one of these, depending on where you're watching this video. Now, we are spoiled for choice in Ireland because there's 5 different trim versions. The Panamericana one is the one that still has a diff lock on it and will qualify as a commercial vehicle. So that's not the one I have today, but in essence, they're still very, very similar. This version is the 237 brake horsepower, 600 Newton meter, 3-litre V6 diesel engine. There is also a 2-litre, but if you're going to want to tow a lot, you might want to consider the more powerful version of the car. While all Amaroks can tow 3.5 tonne, and this space in here hasn't changed, again, it's just that 1,000 kilo payload that you need to be mindful of. Getting up and into the vehicle at the back is very, very simple. Now, you can step here if you're just getting here without this hatch down, and if you drop that, you've loads of space inside. You can tether things down, of course, as well. But one thing that's different between this and the Raptor that I've had on the channel, and I haven't put up just yet because of the technical issue with it, but I'm getting to it, you can charge your power tools off this power source in the back of the Ranger Raptor. Now, maybe you can spec that on the Amarok, I'm sure you can, but it was one thing that I noticed was missing, and this being the highest spec version, you'd kind of just wonder. Very imposing front still on the vehicle. Mid blue metallic is this colour. LED lights. You have a V6 badge if it's the V6 version of it. The Volkswagen badge, front and rear, have high quality cameras on board. They help you if you're waiting or if you're trying to just get through tight gaps and forests and things like I was in today. Amarok is stenciled into the front of the vehicle, this kind of silver effect, just breaking up the nose of it, and a couple of grooves here on the bonnet. Now, it is quite long here at the front, so a bit like the Ranger Raptor, when you're sitting behind the wheel of it, it's kind of hard to see exactly where your nose is. These 21-inch alloy wheels on Goodyear Wrangler tyres also will affect whether the vehicle is commercial or not, so you want to be careful about speccing them because they could change the overall price of the car quite drastically. It can take 350 kilos on the roof if you're parked up. I think it's 85 just carrying. You've got side sills to help you get in and out of the vehicle. Maybe you're kind of at an incline or whatever. They'll definitely help. Something that is from the Ranger are the handles. They say there's only kind of 3 different parts. The roof and the handles are some of them. A bit more going on inside from, you know, a bit of a forward imprint going on, and 4Motion on the back of the vehicle. So, I mean, it does look different enough from a Ranger Raptor, to be fair. Now, it's not going to be a problem fitting 3 people into the back of the Amarok, but, I mean, there is a third seatbelt and all that stuff, but you've got a bit of a hump in the floor, and I think, you know, 2 will be definitely more comfortable in here after a hard day's work or heading off that way. Now, there's a space for an armrest. It's even cut out, and it's got a little kind of bit of material to pull it out, but I don't know what the story is with that armrest. It's not budging. I don't want to break it. Decent head heights. A couple of hooks for holding, you know, bits, vests, whatever you might need back here. You've got grab handles all around, including on the sides of the vehicle and in the front pillars as well for both driver and passenger if you need extra support. Storage pockets at the back of these seats, also here. You've got a 3-pin plug and a 12-volt and your own individual air vents back here, and there's decent space for getting your boots and things underneath. So actually, I think on longer journeys, you'd be pretty comfortable. I mean, it's not a massive set of knee space, but it's adequate, and you could always just encourage your lovely colleagues to push up a bit up front. Climbing up into the vehicle definitely made easier by that handle anyway. Now, there's a lot of switchgear inside it. Feels very Ford, because it is very Ford. 10-speed automatic gearbox. In this one, you can get a manual if you like. Got a portrait orientated screen. It's well over 12 inches. It's absolutely huge. Now the Ranger has physical climate control buttons. This is a Volkswagen, so it doesn't. There is a couple of shortcut buttons you can hit to bring you into your climate control. And there's 3 levels, much like the Ford system, so that's a little bit different to Volkswagen. But overall, the software in it looks Volkswagen-y, if you get me. Quite easy to flick between the different modes. So, well, first of all, your 2-wheel versus your 4-wheel. You've got low and high and automatic. And then you've got an optional diff lock. The Panamericana one is the one that comes with that as standard, but you can buy packs that give you the diff lock if you're interested. Even the center of the steering wheel is kind of different to my eye from a Volkswagen, but the shortcut buttons are still here. There's no haptics going on, you'll be pleased to know. And then your different modes for driving or eco or towing and hauling. There's slippery, there's mud and ruts, deep snow or sand. You can configure these, and they are, in my opinion, a little bit easier to use than the Ranger. Same with the instruments. It does look a bit Ford, like at times a bit Volkswagen-y, but you kind of just get on with it. Same with the instrument cluster for the headlights, they're from Ford, and the buttons here for the driver, and the armrest, which doesn't slide, whereas most Volkswagen vehicles do. There is a sunglasses holder up here for you to keep yourself and your shades all right. You'll get heated seats on this vehicle, a USB-C and a charging port, as well as wireless charging depending on which version you're going for. And there's even a small little space up here to keep certain things out of sight, but there's nothing up here that you can use for storage, which I think is perhaps a bit of a missed opportunity. Something else that's important to mention in this video is the Ranger is a little bit cheaper to buy, and you can also get it in a single cab. You won't be able to do that in the Amarok. You can look at it from the point of view, well, at least there's many options now covered, and there's plenty of Ranger different specs and trims too, so it can all get quite complicated actually. It has a great seating position in the Amarok, so it makes looking over hedges and coming out of junctions of things very easy, if that's something that is important to you. It sounds pretty good, obviously, because it's a V6, so it's got a nice rumble to it. The 2-litre, there's 2 different versions, so there's a higher output version, 2-litre. That would probably be enough for most people. I mean, they will all tow 3.5 ton. This one just, well, sounds a bit better and obviously has a bit more torque for getting around. Still a leaf spring setup, so it does still feel like a pickup. Now, it's on the better side of ride quality, much like the Ranger, but it is a bit fidgety, you know, it's not perfect. When you're ascending a hill or anything like that, that's when you'll just see the benefit of that more powerful V6 engine, because it's just, there's enough grunt there to get you. Now, what I will say to you is the turning circle in this car is not ideal. You'll find yourself at fairly tight turns having to go again. It's also quite a wide vehicle, so on these kind of narrower country roads, I mean, you're never going to lose if it's a game of chicken versus most things, but you know, it's quite a wide vehicle. Now, on the motorway, it will actually be fairly all right when it comes to fuel. So somewhere between sort of 5 and 6 litres per 100 kilometres. However, there's times when you'll see it doing 30. So I think generally about 26 miles per gallon, if you're watching this in the UK, seems to be the average quoted figure. And once the road surface is good, it is fairly comfortable. It's quiet enough. All you'll hear is that nice V6 rumble from the diesel engine. If you do truly need to accelerate, it doesn't always sound quite V6 anymore, but again, it's all about the pulling power and the torque, which is pretty much always there. I mean, it's a 10-speed gearbox, so there's the odd time it's not fully sure of what gear you want to be in, but there's plenty of options there depending on what you're going to be doing with the vehicle. We also have a display on how much it's using versus rear-wheel drive versus all-wheel drive. It takes about 10 seconds to get to 60, but it can shift. You know, it's quick away from a set of lights, and if you do manage to encounter something that you weren't expecting, it has frontal collision avoidance. This version also has blind spot, and the mirrors themselves are just huge, so it would be hard to miss most things, I'd imagine. I don't quite get the sense that the Amarok would like to go at the same speeds as the Ranger Raptor version, and if that's important to you, it's probably worth looking at one of them. This is a little bit more about luxury. It's a little bit nicer. I mean, there's still plenty of scratchy plastic, but they have put a nice leather effect on the tops of the doors and also the top of the dashboard. The leather seats are comfortable, the steering wheel is comfortable, that's heated depending on what spec you get, and you've got heated seats. Now the Ranger has a lot of those things as well. There's CarPlay and Android Auto, which works wirelessly, so it's kind of, you know, it's got a car feeling in some aspects because of what spec you get included. I suppose the main thing about vehicles like this is their off-road capabilities and perhaps their towing capabilities. And all I can say is, on a bit of fun today, off-road with muck and kind of wet leaves and stuff like that, even an idiot like me didn't manage to get stuck. So from that limited bit of off-road, I mean, I hate taking pickups and off-road vehicles and not at least putting them into some off-road environment. So I did what I could today, and it, you know, just didn't blink. It was, yeah, but they weren't exactly huge areas of off-road tracks or anything like that. As long as you still are okay with a lot of screen interaction, even the climate control, yes, you can touch it, it's always there at the bottom, but you'll be pressing the button to adjust it or using a slider up and down on the screen. You can at least use that just to adjust the climate control to your needs. I like the way as well it tells you what degree of bank and what angle you're at. Even on the road you can see that, and actually when you accelerate and brake, the pitch and roll actually drops a bit just from the weight of that V6 engine up front. It's absolutely one of the best pickup trucks on the market. That's one thing that hasn't changed with the Amarok in my opinion. It's just, I suppose, the collaboration between Ford and Volkswagen has just, even by conversation, you have to mention it. So it's putting the Ranger into people's minds. And if they go and look at the prices of it, and then they find out, well, actually, it's not that different underneath, the bits you can't see, will it just take away from some of the sales that maybe Volkswagen would have had with standalone Amarok customers? And then the beauty of these cars is you've got two seats in the back, loads of space in the back, and you're on a motorway with your radar cruise control. It's very, very settled on smooth surfaces, and it's one of those vehicles that can just do both very, very easily, and that is massively important when it comes to pickup trucks. And the cheaper options on the market don't necessarily get that mix right. That's something really, really important to bear in mind. So look, thank you for coming this far in the video. I'll give you a quick summary of my thoughts of it now, and let me know, have you had an Amarok before or other kinds of pickup trucks? How did you get on with them? And your experience of driving them, you know, 7 days a week, not just for work, maybe for family uses and normal uses. Can you be a one car pickup truck family? That's another question. In terms of ownership, would it put you off that this isn't exactly a thoroughbred Volkswagen like the previous Amarok was? Or did you have them for years and loved it and you'd be willing to just jump on board? I mean, there's plenty of Ranger Raptors on the road around Ireland. You see them all the time, and they are pretty capable vehicles when you want to take them off-road. There's no reason why this is going to be any different. So let me know your thoughts on the new Amarok. Is the price kind of okay? Late 40s starting from? It's not as bad as I thought, but you know, obviously very different vehicle here. It's almost 30,000 euro more expensive. Let me know if the Amarok could be your next pickup truck. Loads of comments are welcome down below. I'll talk to you in the next one.